Today, we're wading into a topic that usually triggers one of two reactions. Either eyes just glaze over or people start frantically checking their crypto wallets. I'm talking about blockchain in the pharmaceutical industry. Or Pharma 4.0, as the industry likes to brand it.
And look, I totally get the skepticism. For like a decade, blockchain was a solution looking for a problem. It was all, expensive JPEGs and just volatility. But looking at this stack of reports, specifically this one, the Emerging Blockchain Trends 2026, the whole tone has shifted. We're not talking about pilot programs or innovation theater anymore.
That's what stood out to me immediately. The language has moved from, like you said, experimental to mission critical. We're seeing terms like compliance mandates and infrastructure.
Yeah.
It feels less like a tech trend and more like, I don't know, plumbing.
Expensive plumbing, yeah. If you look at the market data in here, the sector was sitting at roughly $1.4 billion back in 2024. The projections now have it rocketing to $9.2 billion by 2033. That's a compound annual growth rate of 24.5%. You don't see that kind of capital injection just for hype. That money is being spent to put out fires.
So our mission today is to figure out exactly what those fires are. We're going to break down how this invisible ledger is supposedly solving the industry's deadliest problems. Counterfeits, supply chain opacity, and even that valley of death in research funding.
And we have to start with the deadliest problem first, because honestly, the efficiency gains are nice, but the why here, it's driven by a genuine crisis.
The counterfeit drug crisis.
Right.
I think for the average person walking into a pharmacy, especially in the US or Europe, you just assume safety. You hand over the slip, you get the bottle, you take the pill. The idea that that pill might be fake feels very distant.
It feels distant, but the data paints a really terrifying picture. The World Health Organization estimates that about 10% of medicines sold globally are counterfeit. And we are not talking about a knockoff handbag where the stitching is bad. We're talking about cancer drugs with no active ingredients, or antibiotics that are just pressed chalk.
The report puts the economic cost at $50 billion annually. But the human cost? It's staggering. Between 500,000 and 1 million deaths a year from falsified medicines.
It's a silent massacre. And the reason it persists is that the pharmaceutical supply chain is just incredibly messy. A drug might change hands 10, 15 times between the factory and you. It goes through wholesalers, repackagers, distributors. Every handoff is a blind spot where a fake can slip in.
Okay, so how does blockchain actually fix that? Because I can print a barcode on a fake bottle just as easily as a real one. If I'm a criminal, I have a printer.
You can copy the barcode, sure. But in this Pharma 4.0 framework, we're moving to what they call a digital passport. Every single unit, every blister pack, every bottle is serialized. It gets a unique identity registered on the blockchain the moment it's made.
Okay, but stick with my copier argument. I'm a sophisticated criminal. I buy one real bottle. I copy that valid ID. I print it on 10,000 fakes. Now I have valid IDs on fake bottles.
That's where the immutable ledger comes in. The system tracks the state and the location of that specific ID. So if you try to sell your fake bottle in London, the system scans the ID and it sees that the real bottle with that ID was just scanned into a warehouse in Ohio.
It flags the duplicate immediately.
Exactly. The system knows a physical object can't be in two places at once. It creates a single version of the truth that everyone in the chain can see. You just can't forge the history.
And this isn't just companies doing this out of the goodness of their hearts, is it? There's a massive stick driving this, not just a carrot.
The regulatory hammer. We are, right now, less than a year away from the full enforcement of the DSCSA, the U.S. Drug Supply Chain Security Act. The final phase hits this November, 2026.
I remember reading about this. It feels like the deadlines kept getting pushed back for years and years.
They did, because the industry just wasn't ready. But the grace periods are over. The law now mandates full unit-level serialization and electronic traceability. If you can't provide that digital history, that GPS log for the pill, you essentially can't sell your product in the U.S. market.
That's a powerful motivator. Comply or go out of business.
And it's the same in Europe with their falsified medicines directive. So traceability is no longer a nice to have, it is the law. And that's why we're seeing this scramble to upgrade the tech stack.
Let's dig into that tech stack, because I think there's a huge misconception we need to clear up right now. When we say blockchain in 2026, are Pfizer and McKesson using the same network as the people trading Dogecoin? Hey, definitely not, no. And that's a crucial distinction. Bitcoin and Ethereum are public blockchains. Anyone can join, anyone can download the ledger, anyone can see the transactions.
Which would be a total nightmare for a pharma company.
It would be corporate suicide.
Yeah.
You can't have your competitors seeing your volume or your pricing or your partners. So Pharma 4.0 relies on permission networks. The report mentions Hyperledger Fabric as a big standard here.
It was a private club.
Invite only. You have to be a verified entity, a licensed manufacturer, an accredited distributor just to get a key to the door.
But here's where I get a little stuck on the logic. Even in a private club, you still have competitors in the room. If I'm a wholesaler, I don't want the manufacturer to know who my downstream customers are, right? I don't want to give away my business intelligence just to prove a drug is real.
And you've just hit on the privacy paradox. This was the biggest technical hurdle for years. How do we verify the supply chain without exposing trade secrets?
Transparency versus confidentiality. And the solution that has really matured by 2026 is something called zero-knowledge proofs, or ZK snarks.
ZK Snarks. Okay, that sounds like a sci-fi villain.
It does, right? It
What is
stands
it?
for Zero Knowledge Succinct Non-Interactive Argument of Knowledge. A total mouthful. But the concept is brilliant. It lets you prove you know something or that a statement is true without revealing the underlying data.
Okay, give me a real-world analogy. How does that work in practice?
All right. Imagine you want to prove to a bar bouncer that you're over 21. Usually you hand them your ID, but that ID also shows your address, your full name, your exact birth date. You're revealing way more than you need to just to prove true or false over 21.
Right.
A zero-knowledge proof is like a magical machine where you slide your ID in and the bouncer just sees a green light that says over 21. He verifies the validity of the claim without ever seeing the data on the ID.
So applying that to pharma.
A distributor can prove to a pharmacy that a drug is authentic and came from Pfizer without revealing the price they paid for it or the total volume of their shipment.
That is the game changer. It lets them collaborate without being vulnerable.
Precisely. It's what powers these big consortiums like MetaLedger in the US or PharmaLedger in Europe. It allows fierce competitors to share a safety infrastructure without compromising their competitive edge.
Now, alongside ZK Snarks, the other term that's all over this report is smart contracts. I heard this described as the automator.
That's a pretty fair description. A smart contract is just code. It's embedded in the blockchain, and it executes automatically when certain conditions are met. It's just if this, then that for business logic.
And the report highlights payment automation as the killer app here. Why is that such a big deal?
Because the current system is just painfully slow. In the traditional pharma supply chain, net 30 or net 60 payment terms are standard. A manufacturer ships millions of dollars of product, and then they wait 2 months to get paid. And that's if everything goes smoothly.
It rarely does.
There are always disputes. We ordered 500. You sent 490. The box was damaged. The invoice code is wrong. You have an army of people in back offices just fighting over emails and spreadsheets.
The friction factory.
With a smart contract, the logic is all pre-agreed. The moment the shipment hits the distributor's dock, gets scanned, and the digital signature is verified, bam, the payment is released instantly.
No invoice, no waiting, no humans.
It creates immense liquidity. Cash flow that used to be trapped in accounts receivable is suddenly available. It just changes the speed of business.
So we have the why, that's safety in the law, and the how permissioned ledgers and smart contracts. But the report suggests that in 2026, blockchain isn't acting alone. It's colliding with other tech, specifically AI and IoT. This is the convergence chapter.
Right. Blockchain is, it's rarely deployed in isolation anymore. It's the foundation that other tech sits on top of.
Let's start with AI. We know AI is everywhere, but the report says blockchain is the trust layer for AI. What does that even mean?
Think about the biggest weakness of AI models. They are hungry for data, but they're terrible at discerning truth. If you feed an AI garbage data, falsified supply numbers, tampered clinical results, it will give you a garbage prediction.
It hallucinates or makes a bad strategic recommendation.
Exactly. And in pharma, a bad prediction can kill people. So blockchain ensures the integrity of the training data. Because the ledger is immutable, the AI knows that the data hasn't been tampered with since the moment it was created.
It's like a background check for the data before the AI is allowed to learn from it.
Yes. It allows companies to build what they call robust AI models. They can trust their forecasts on drug demand or safety signals because they can mathematically prove the history of the data.
And then you have IoT, the Internet of Things, sensors. The report links this heavily to the cold chain.
This is so critical for biologics, vaccines, insulin. We all remember the COVID rollout. Some of those vaccines had to be kept at minus 80 degrees Celsius.
Right. If they got warm, they were useless.
Worse than useless. Potentially dangerous. In Pharma 4.0, shipping containers are loaded with IoT sensors that transmit temperature, humidity, and shock data every single minute.
And that data goes straight to the blockchain.
In real time. So imagine a truck driver turns off the reefer unit for an hour to save a little fuel. The temperature spikes.
In the old world, maybe he turns it back on, the temp goes down, and nobody ever knows those drugs were compromised.
Precisely. But here, the blockchain records that spike immutably. And that smart contract we talked about, it can instantly flag that entire batch as unsellable. It just locks the digital passport.
So even if the physical box arrives looking totally fine, the system won't even let the pharmacy receive it.
It stops the error before it can ever reach the patient. And it settles the insurance claim automatically. There's no arguing about whose fault it was. The data shows exactly when and where the temperature spiked. It's objective proof.
I want to pivot now. We spent a lot of time on logistics, moving boxes from A to B. But the source material highlights a massive shift in the actual science, clinical trials.
This is actually the second largest use case in the report. It's making up about 35–38% of the market. And it tackles a problem that science has struggled with for a long, long time: data integrity and trust.
We've all heard the horror stories. Researchers cherry-picking data to get a drug approved, or that retrospective manipulation, changing the hypothesis after you see the results to make them look good.
It happens more than we'd like to admit. The pressure to publish and to get approval is just immense. Blockchain fixes this by timestamping the protocol and the results as they happen.
So you can't go back and delete the 5 patients who had a bad reaction.
You literally cannot. If a patient is enrolled, that transaction is on the ledger. If they drop out or have an adverse event, it is recorded. It forces a level of honesty that we haven't historically had.
It's a truth machine for science.
It is. And it also manages patient consent. So if a patient revokes their consent, the blockchain ensures their data is actually pulled from the study instantly. It gives control back to the participant.
Speaking of control and funding, this brings us to what I thought was the most futuristic part of the report: IP NFTs.
This is where things get really interesting.
Yeah. Now, when I say NFT, listeners are probably picturing those like ugly digital monkeys from 2021. But we're talking about intellectual property, non-fungible tokens.
Correct. We are talking about the tokenization of scientific discovery.
Okay, why do we need this? What's wrong with the way we fund science now?
The problem is what they call the valley of death.
Sounds ominous.
It's a well-known term in drug development. You have basic research in university labs, very early stage, very risky. Then you have late-stage clinical trials, expensive. But big pharma invests there because the product is more proven.
The gap is in the middle.
Exactly, proving the concept. It's too expensive for a university, but it's too risky for a VC or big pharma. So brilliant ideas just die there. They starve for funding.
So how does an NFT build a bridge across that valley of death?
It allows a researcher to wrap their IP, their data, their patent rights into a digital token, and they can then sell fractions of that token to a community.
So instead of waiting for one giant check from Pfizer, they can get small checks from, what, 5,000 people?
Exactly. And those people now own a stake in the potential success of that drug. The report highlights Vita DAO as the prime example here.
Right. They mentioned that deal with the University of Copenhagen.
Yes. Vita DAO purchased the IP for a longevity molecule using an IP NFT. It wasn't a corporation buying it. It was a decentralized community of longevity enthusiasts.
That is wild. It completely democratizes the actual ownership of science. If the drug becomes a blockbuster, the community benefits, not just the shareholders.
It moves science from closed boardrooms to open communities. It's a radical shift in incentives.
Okay, we have painted a very rosy picture here. No fakes, instant payments, perfect trials, crowd-funded longevity. But the report has a big section called the hurdles. If this is so great, why isn't every pill bottle tracked today? Why isn't this done?
Because the reality is messy. The short answer is integration nightmares.
Tech debt.
Massive tech debt. The report explicitly says that 60 to 70% of the cost of these projects isn't the blockchain itself. It's getting the blockchain to talk to the dinosaurs in the basement.
We're talking about ERPs, SAP systems.
Warehouse management systems that might be 20 years old. Green screens. You're trying to get a cutting-edge, decentralized ledger to sync with a system that was built before the iPhone even existed.
It's like trying to run modern software on a Commodore 64.
Essentially. And that's why standards is such a huge section of this report. They talk a lot about GS1 EPCIS.
Which sounds like a robot from Star Wars, but explain it.
It's the Electronic Product Code Information Services. Think of it as the universal translator. It's a standard language for describing what, where, when, and why a product moved. Without those GS1 standards, all the different systems can't understand each other. It's the unsexy glue holding this whole revolution together.
So the tech is hard, but the report suggests the people might be even harder. The human element.
Cultural resistance. This is huge. Think about what we said earlier. Blockchain brings total transparency.
And transparency exposes mistakes.
Exactly. In the old world, if a warehouse manager missed a timestamp or fudged a number to meet a quota or did some workaround to get a shipment out, maybe nobody noticed.
It was a little secret.
In a blockchain world, that error is immutable. It's visible to the entire network forever.
So staff are terrified. They feel like Big Brother is watching their every move.
They do. There's a real fear that the tool will be used punitively. Change management is a massive part of a successful implementation. Leaders have to convince staff that the ledger actually protects them.
How so?
Well, if the freezer truck fails, the data proves it was a mechanical failure, not the driver's negligence. It provides objective evidence. But getting people to trust the machine over their own intuition, that is a generational shift.
It sounds like we're in the messy middle. We have the tech, we have the mandates, but we're still dragging the culture and the legacy systems along with us.
That's a very fair assessment. But the trajectory is set. The law says we have to go this way.
So let's look forward. The report ends with an outlook toward 2030. What's coming next?
Two things really stood out to me. First, the arms race of encryption. They talk about quantum-resistant cryptography.
Preparing for the day quantum computers can crack our current codes.
Right. If blockchain is supposed to be a permanent record of truth, you have to make sure a quantum computer can't hack it 10 years from now and rewrite history. So the industry is already building defenses for a threat that doesn't fully exist yet.
Smart. And the second thing?
Patient health record NFTs. This is the idea that you, the patient, own your data as an asset.
So instead of a hospital or a tech company owning my chart.
You hold the keys. If a pharma company wants your data for a study, they don't buy it from some data broker. They have to buy access from you directly.
It completely flips the model. Instead of my data being harvested, I'm selling it.
In 2030, you might be funding your own healthcare by selling your own health data. It turns the patient from a product into a partner.
That is a fascinating, if slightly dystopian future.
It's certainly a brave new world.
So let's recap what we've covered today. We've moved from fighting a deadly counterfeit crisis with digital passports to automating payments with smart contracts, ensuring AI doesn't learn from garbage data, and even using tokens to fund the science itself.
It's a complete overhaul of the pharmaceutical ecosystem. It's moving from trust me to trust the math.
And it's all being driven by safety, efficiency, and the law.
Absolutely.
Which brings us to our final thought for you, the listener. The source material paints a picture where very soon you will be able to scan a pill bottle with your phone and see its entire life history, every stop, every temperature reading, every single inspection.
Radical transparency.
So here is the question we want you to mull over. If you could audit the entire history of every product you consume, from your coffee to your medicine, would you trust the brands you currently use? Or would that transparency force you to switch?
It's the ultimate loyalty test.
Thanks for diving in with us. Stay curious, stay safe, and we'll catch you on the next deep dive.